Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another basketball video, and today is my first video since August that isn't about football. I used to do a series called This Week in Sports that had zero traction and nobody ever watched. I think the highest any of those videos ever got for views was like 7. But I decided to start diversifying my content and making basketball videos because NFL season's coming to a close, and I'm very interested in basketball. I want to learn more about basketball, and I'd like to use this channel to help me do that. So before we get into the video, I am not claiming to be an expert on any of these teams. I know very little about basketball, and I got help from one of my friends making this list. I generally know what teams are good and which teams are bad, but I mainly just follow the Celtics. So this is all for fun. This is a lot for me to learn about basketball and to have a fun season with you guys. So make sure to like the video if you enjoy, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Only about 15% of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you enjoy my content and you want to see more content like it, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all the support that I've gotten over the past couple of months, and I'm really excited for the future of this channel. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So we're going to start off this video with the NBA dumpster fire. The Cavaliers and Knicks are clearly the worst two teams in the NBA, and I don't see them doing anything this season. As for the Thunder, they had a decent run last year in the playoffs, but they got rid of all their players, traded them away for draft picks, and are trying to become a dominant team in the future. But for this season, they have literally no one, and they're not going to do well. As for the Pistons, they also are near the bottom. They're not as bad as the Cavaliers or the Knicks. They're not as terrible as either of them, but the Pistons aren't going to be going anywhere either. The teams with minimal potential are the Bulls, the Timberwolves, the Kings, and the Hornets. All these teams were near the bottom of the pack last year and haven't made any major changes. The Hornets got Al Horford. He might be he might make a little bit of an impact in Charlotte, but I don't think that he's going to be a major factor. The Celtics had him for a while, and he was a good team player, but he was a good team player for a team that already had a solid base. The Hornets don't have a solid base, and if he's one of your starting guys, if he's the main guy that you're going to be going to, then that might put a lot of pressure on him, and I don't think he'll definitely improve the team, but they're still not going to be a great team. As for the Kings, the Timberwolves, and the Bulls, none of them have impressive off seasons at all, and they're all going to probably stay or get worse than where they were last year. For the playoff hopefuls, we have the Spurs, the Hawks, the Wizards, the Magic, and the Grizzlies. The playoff hopefuls category, basically, these teams have been in the playoffs in the past couple of seasons. They've either made it or they've been close to the playoffs in the last couple of years, but there are other teams that have improved more. None of these teams have done anything in the offseason really to get them to that playoff spot, but there are teams that were below them in the previous couple of seasons coming up and taking their places. That are probably going to be some of the lower playoff seeds, and even if they do make it, they'll probably just get bumped out in the first round by the number 1 seed. All in all, none of these teams are really anything special, but they're not terrible. Like, they're not as bad as the Hornets or the Kings or the Knicks, but they're not going to be doing a whole lot this season. Likely candidates for the playoffs include the Pacers, the Pelicans, the Rockets, and the Trailblazers. Not all these teams are going to make it, but most of them probably will. The Pelicans have Zion Williamson, and he is going to come into his second season in the league. With him being a year older and getting a couple of new players, the Pelicans should be improving from last season and move up the ranks, possibly getting that 7th or 8th seed. As for the Pacers, they've been hovering around the playoffs, either being 7th or 8th seed or being right below the playoffs for the last few seasons, and they didn't really make any changes to their roster, so they're probably going to be hovering around that playoff borderline as well. The Rockets have James Harden, and that is the only player on their team. And the Trailblazers, although they had a pretty decent bubble, haven't made any major changes in the offseason to their team that I understand that will make them stand out in the regular season. And even if they do make the playoffs, I don't think that they're going to go very far, especially if they're 7th and 8th seed and they need to play one of the top seeds. Moving on to the up-and-coming teams, we have the Suns, the Jazz, the Warriors, and the Raptors. The Suns last year were supposed to be good. In the regular season, they did terrible, and then they almost made the playoffs by having a perfect bubble. The stars did not align. It was not their destiny to make the playoffs last season, even with their perfect record in the bubble. But the Suns are going to come back strong this year. They're going to take the momentum with them, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. The Jazz also are another one of those teams, similar to the Pacers, but they're more consistently good. The Jazz are usually a 5th or 6th seed, sometimes 4th seed. They hover around that area a lot, and they're probably going to continue to be around the 4th or 5th seed this season. As for the Warriors, they were one of the worst teams in the league last year, but that was because of their major injuries. A lot of their best players were out for the majority of the season, and they just couldn't get any games together because of that. And at number 10, we have the Toronto Raptors, who have a fantastic team. But from my understanding, they're not going to be quite as good as they were in the past couple of years because their team is slowly separating a little bit. Moving on, we have legit contenders. We have the Mavs, the Sixers, and the Heat. All of these teams are safe playoff spots, and they will potentially do well in the playoffs. The Mavericks had a very good season last year, but their record wasn't as good as it could have been because they lost a lot of very close games. It was a statistical anomaly how many close games they lost. They have a good team. They added a little bit of talent. They changed their coaching around, and I think that they definitely have a possibility of making it far this season. At number 8, we have the 76ers, who are similar to teams like the Celtics and the Jazz and the Raptors. They're always up there. They're always in the mix. They have some great players. They always do well in the playoffs, and I mean they're legit contenders. There's not really much more to be said about the 76ers. They didn't really add anyone major in the offseason, but they are legit contenders. They're probably going to make it to the playoffs and at least win a game, maybe 2. Or at least they might win the first series. They might win 2 series, but they're definitely a strong contender. As for the Heat, they didn't have the best regular season last year, but Tyler Hero and that offense were coming together nicely in the bubble. And they ended up being the Celtics and making it to the Eastern Conference Finals last season. I don't think that they're the best team in the East, but they're definitely a strong contender in the East. Tyler Hero is going to be a year older. The rest of their team is very strong, and the Heat are going to be a good team to beat. They're going to be the team to beat next year, and they could even be better than 7. But considering we don't know a whole lot about how they're going to do, I think 7's a good spot for them. Borderline elite teams. We have the Celtics, the Nuggets, the Nets, and the Clippers. The Celtics, I might be a little bit biased about because I watch all of their games and I am a Celtics fan. But I think the Celtics have a very strong team. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown are both very strong players. Marcus Smart's a very good defensive player. Kemba Walker is a good player. Al Horford is gone, and Gordon Hayward is gone. But I think that we still have a fantastic team. And I think that at number 6, the Celtics are in a position to potentially make the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think that we'll win the finals, but I think that we could make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. At 5, we have the Nuggets. The Nuggets have been a solid team for the last couple of years. They didn't really make too many offseason changes, but they don't really need to. Their team's already good enough. The Nets are at 4. The Nets were a playoff team last year, and then they added a whole bunch of talent in the offseason this year. The Nets are trying to make a super team, and the only reason why they're not in the elite category is because we haven't seen the super team play together yet. If we have seen them play together, if we had a little bit more knowledge on how they're going to work together, then the Nets would definitely be a top 2 team. But right now they're number 4, considering we don't really know how they're going to work together. But in basketball, if you put talent with talent, it doesn't matter how they work together. The talent will just win out. At number 3 of the Clippers. The Clippers were one of the strongest teams in the West last year. They still are. They didn't make many changes, but they're still one of the most dominant teams in the league. That's just it. And then the NBA elites, we have the Lakers and the Milwaukee Bucks. This was the NBA Finals last year, and these are the two most elite teams in the NBA. If a team won the championship last year, then you got to put them at 1. If they made it to the championship last year, you got to put them at 2. And these two are clearly the two strongest teams in the league, and they're the two strongest teams to beat. So, thank you guys for watching the video. I know it was a quick video because I personally don't have a whole lot to say about each of the teams. I'm going to be following the NBA season this year. I'm going to be trying to learn more about the teams, learn more about the players, and I want to learn more about it with you guys. So, if you guys like this kind of content, make sure to leave a like down below. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I know a lot of people that a lot of my content before was football content. So if you're a basketball fan that's finding my channel for the first time, welcome to the channel. I make videos almost every day, and I'm going to try to diversify my content to add more sports into the mix, mainly basketball, because that's my second biggest interest as far as sports go. So, thank you guys all for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. I will see you guys all in the next video. Peace out.